The Golden State Warriors' new formula is dangerous and won't stop robbing the NBA. As you all know, the Warriors had a new lineup when it came to facing off against the Orlando Magic, which actually had them win 121 to 115. In today's video, we're going to be going through the 5 big differences that had them win this Orlando Magic game, and how these differences can also help them win an NBA championship at the end of this season. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it would mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down below. The first is none other than Stephen Curry playing at an MVP type level. Now this comes to no surprise, but Stephen Curry is still the player that he always was, because in this matchup he actually dropped 36 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, and also had himself 2 rebounds, and also guys, 1 sneaky block. But when it comes to Stephen Curry's game, he was definitely in a mind of his own. He was definitely a lot more comfortable out there. Obviously he is coming from a game against the Dallas Mavericks where he didn't play so well, and you definitely saw a different side of him, which we absolutely loved. When it comes to Stephen Curry, if he is on a very big hot streak, it's pretty much impossible to stop him. He shot 12 from 20 from the field, but also went 4 from 9 from the 3-point line, which is fantastic to see. And he was pretty much doing everything out there, whether it was playing the offense, whether it was also dishing out to the open man for the assist. He was definitely running the offense, and he definitely made it very hard for Orlando Magic to stop, which is one of the reasons why he dropped a 36 piece so easily. And the fact that he only did this on 35 minutes of playing time was honestly fantastic. The efficiency that he was shooting at is also great to see, but when it comes to Steph, he definitely hasn't slowed down any bit, and I think this is something, a part of his game, that not many people realize. Although Stephen Curry is getting older as time goes on, he's definitely not decreasing in his ability out there on the floor. If anything, he is just getting better. He's getting a lot more stronger, higher IQ, and I definitely saw a lot of great things from this game. But when it comes to Stephen Curry leading a team, he definitely showed that he can still do it, and do it at a very high level. Orlando Magic are a very tough team. As you guys know, they do rank actually pretty much in the top 10 in all categories when it comes to points allowed, assists allowed, and also rebounds allowed, and Stephen Curry blew that out of the water. And I think that's fantastic to see, especially from someone like Steph, who is getting older, and people are thinking it's probably his end of his prime, but he is only getting better as time goes on. So absolutely love that from Steph, and we hope to see that continue on into this next matchups. That is definitely crucial games to get them back into the top 8. The second is Jonathan Kuminga playing at his full potential. Now, as you all know, Jonathan Kuminga has definitely been a hot topic when it comes to he's going to be the next star for this Golden State Warriors team. And although start of the season it didn't really pan out as anyone thinks, he's finally given the minutes, and he definitely showed that in this game. When it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, he stands at 6'6", 225 pounds, and he absolutely balled out, having himself 19 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 monster blocks. And no guys, I'm not just talking your casual tip in block or anything like that. I'm talking straight swatted it out of the arena. And this is the Jonathan Kuminga that we love to see. He also had a very good box plus minus, where he actually had a plus 10, which was great. But when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga's game, we all know what he can be on defense, and he was a defensive juggernaut out there. He was running the power forward position and pretty much center, if you did include Trayce Jackson-Davis as a forward as well. So they were running small ball in that starting 5, and he did a fantastic job, even at 6'7", being able to guard some bigger guys. Now we look at some of the bigger guys in Orlando Magic. We also had Franz Wagner in that team, Paolo Banchero, who's a very strong offensive player, and also Bidzatse. So they do got some big guys in that team, and Jonathan Kuminga, even at 6'7", was able to do a fantastic job. He definitely did a lot of great things out there when it came to the blocks, his assists, his rebounding, but what I love most about his game is definitely his ability to switch and be able to recover very quickly. I think that's something that is very underrated, but whenever you saw Steph, or maybe even Klay, or even Chris Paul at times get caught on screens where they couldn't get around, Jonathan Kuminga took upon himself to make that switch and be able to defend the best of his ability, those guards, and he did a fantastic job at that. So the fact that his versatility out there on the floor, he's able to guard pretty much 1 through 5 very easily, it's definitely a very big sign that Jonathan Kuminga can be a good hybrid defender. Being able to guard so many positions, I think, is honestly fantastic for what the Warriors are trying to build. The third is that Trayce Jackson-Davis is becoming an all-out star. Now, as you all know, Trayce Jackson-Davis has definitely surprised a lot of people as of recent, but we definitely saw a different lineup in this matchup, where we actually had Kevon Looney coming off the bench and Trayce Jackson-Davis actually being in that starting center / power forward role. Now, he did a great job getting 10 points, 4 rebounds, and also 2 assists, with also 2 blocks and also 1 steal. Now, he wasn't putting up MVP type numbers, but I think what Trayce Jackson-Davis definitely does good at there is definitely his ability to be able to switch on defenders like Jonathan Kuminga, and I think that's one of the reasons why Golden State Warriors went with a bit more of a small ball lineup that had Trayce Jackson-Davis and Jonathan Kuminga running that power forward and center position. So I think it was fantastic and a very smart move by Steve Kerr, because you definitely saw Trayce Jackson-Davis be able to outrun a lot of the bigs in that Orlando Magic team and do it at a very easy rate. I think what makes Trayce Jackson-Davis special is that he is 6'9", 245 pounds. So the Golden State Warriors have added a bit of size, which I think is fantastic to see. But when it comes to Trayce Jackson-Davis, I do believe when it comes to his athleticism, it is definitely second to none. Even though he's 6'9", he reminds me a little bit like Kevin Durant, where he pretty much moves like a guard. He doesn't move like a big man. He's not slow. He's not sluggish, but he moves like a guard, which I think is a huge asset to this team, because it has Golden State Warriors be able to run fast-paced basketball, but also do it with someone of a size like 6'9" in their lineup. Now, I think in the past, definitely Golden State Warriors went with the small balls due to the speed issue, and now that they have someone at 6'9" that can keep up with that speed, I definitely do believe it is going to pay a lot of dividends when it comes playoff time, or when it even comes later down on the stretch. But they definitely have found a star in Trayce Jackson-Davis ever since Draymond Green has went down, and the fact that he was promoted to that starting lineup and now seeing Kevon Looney going on the bench, it doesn't mean Kevon Looney is worse, but I do believe it is a very smart decision, because Trayce Jackson-Davis had himself a game, not just this game, but also in the last recent games as well. He's been definitely putting on a show. He had another game where he had 17 points, another one with actually 11 rebounds, so he's definitely capable of doing big things, especially for a big team like the Warriors. The fourth is that the bench played a pivotal role in the Golden State Warriors winning. Now, as we all know, the starting five for this lineup was very, very different to what we were used to. We had Chris Paul at point guard, Steph Curry at point guard / shooting guard, Klay Thompson at small forward, and Jonathan Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis at power forward and center. And I think that's what made this super, super interesting, due to the fact that Kevon Looney, Andrew Wiggins, Brandin Podziemski, and Gary Payton II were all coming off the bench. Now, you can name 2 starters pretty much in Wiggins and Looney. Now coming off the bench is honestly a very, very deep squad. Now that you have some of the starters mixing in with some of the role players, but now becoming all-out stars such as Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis, it does make the game a lot easier for everyone, as now you have someone like Wiggins and Looney coming off the bench, having that experience and putting on a good show. Now, when we look at the bench in general, they had a great game. We had Podziemski, who had 10 points, Wiggins, who had 10 points as well, and they did get around 20-15 minutes per game, which I think is fantastic. We also had Kevon Looney, who had himself 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, which I think is great. So it does seem that the bench of having Wiggins and also Looney come off the bench has actually done very good for this Warriors team. I think the biggest problem that they have had over the last couple of games is due to the fact that when the bench comes on, they are a little bit too young. They haven't all played together for so long, because, you know, Podziemski is new, Trayce Jackson-Davis is new, Kuminga, Wiggins, and, you know, all these other players are definitely starting to get used to the newer players. I think that's what made it very, very hard. Now that you mix some of the role players into that starting lineup and the starting lineup into the role players, it definitely makes it a lot different, especially when you can definitely switch out the 5 with the last 5 and have a very solid squad out there. So I think it was a very smart move from Steve Kerr to definitely get that done, and it has helped them out very much. The fifth is none other than the Golden State Warriors as a team shooting a very efficient percentage. Now, I do have to mention that the Golden State Warriors shot a fantastic field goal percentage of 53%. This is honestly something that is really good to see, especially from a team like the Warriors. They have had quite a few games where they're shooting 27-30% from the field, and we are expecting, especially with a team with Steph, Klay, and other great shooters such as Wiggins, shoot a higher percentage, and they were able to show that in tonight's game. Now, when it comes to this game as well, if we look at Orlando Magic to compare, they only shot 44%, and on some of that, guys, if we look at the 3-point percentages, they were pretty much even. Golden State Warriors shot 37, while while Orlando Magic thought 38. Now, they did shoot roughly the same amount as well, and on top of that, guys, free throw percentage could definitely use a bit of work, but the Warriors still ended up getting a win where they had a 65% free throw percentage. But I do think their field goal percentage was definitely a huge plus. You definitely saw the efficiency that they were shooting out there in. They were shooting inside shots, outside shots, and I think it was fantastic to see them really work as a team and be a very good cohesive unit. Some players that are definitely a tall tale sign that they are only getting better as time goes on is definitely brandin podziemski. Podziemski has been such a huge asset for this team. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals, and he is getting around 20 minutes per game over the last 5 or 6 games. So brandin has been a huge asset for this team, and the fact that some of these young guys such as brandin, also kuminga, trayce Jackson-Davis are all very, very young, but are starting to get some serious minutes and definitely have a bigger role in this team. I definitely not think it's just good for their development, but I do believe they can be very useful when it comes playoff time, and I do believe they will be able to step up to the challenge and face off against some great veterans, especially when it comes to close out games. They have the capabilities to definitely do it. Do they have the experience? Maybe not enough, but you do have to remember there's a lot of great vets in this team. CP3, Steph, Thompson, you'd even call someone like Kevon Looney and Wiggins now a veteran in that sense. So I definitely do think they can get the job done.